Hello, and welcome to this PowerPoint over organelles, what they are, what they do, and why you should care about them being in your body. Before we jump into talking about organelles, we need to first talk about what happens when organelles are all functioning correctly and when they're all doing their jobs or their functions. It's called homeostasis, and it's a balance of the internal conditions of your cells. It's also called equilibrium, so you may hear those two interchangeably. Organelles all play different roles in each cell, but they also, as one, provide each other with support, because if one organelle is not doing its job, the cell or the organism can die, they can have illness or disease. So organelles are a vital part to keeping the balance or the homeostasis of living organisms. The first organelle we're going to talk about is one that provides movement to a lot of organisms. It's just the flagella. It's just moves back and forth like a whip, like a propeller. And it moves the organisms so they can go get away from predators, go eat, things like that. There are also these things called cilia, which are just tinier organelles that serve the same function. They just don't move the organism as far as the flagella can do. Also, there's only one cell in a human body. They're not in all human bodies that has a flagella, and that is the sperm cell. So, as you can imagine, that the sperm cell needs the flagella to move, so impregnation can happen. The next big organelle that we're going to talk about is the cell membrane. The cell membrane is there to, one, protect the cell. It's a flexible boundary, so it can move if the cells are bumping into each other, so the stuff inside doesn't get damaged. It's made up of a phospholipid bilayer, which is simply a two-layer sheet of phospholipids. They have a hydrophilic and a hydrophobic end. The hydrophobic faces inward because it doesn't like water, and the hydrophilic, because it likes water, faces inwards. The membrane is a flexible boundary, so you can think of a boundary as a wall or a fence, something in that nature. Cytoplasm is up next, and you can think of cytoplasm as almost like jello or jelly, but it moves still like a fluid. So if you broke open the cell membrane, the cytoplasm would flow out like water, but it acts more of a buffer than water does. So it protects and allows the other organelles inside of it to move around. It's between the nucleus and the cell membrane, so that if something collided into the cell membrane, it wouldn't collide and then hit the nucleus and damage the nucleus or the genetic material in the nucleus. So you can think of cytoplasm as just a buffer or something that provides protection for the genetic material in the nucleus. The lysosomes are up next, and they are simply the garbage man or the cleanup crew or the garbage disposal of the cell. It takes in waste from the mitochondria or harmful particles that have somehow gotten into the cell, and it has powerful digestive enzymes that just destroy a lot of things. They work in conjunction with the white blood cells too, to destroy bacteria and things like that. Those are the parts of the white blood cells that are releasing the digestive enzymes that kill whatever bacteria or harmful particle is in your body. Then they fuse with the cell membrane and excrete out the harmful material, and then it goes to your kidneys, your livers, to be filtered out of your body in whatever way your body deems necessary. Up next are vacuoles, which you can think of as just storage containers for your cell. They can hold anything from water to nutrients to food particles that have not yet been taken to the mitochondria to create energy. In plant cells, they also contain pigments. So whatever color the plant is, the color will be in the vacuole. It also can contain some poison. So if you ever rubbed up against poison ivy, you've interacted with the vacuole of a plant. Up next, we have the nucleus, or what a lot of people call the brain, or the control center, or the boss of the cell. It contains most of the cell's DNA, which is just the genetic material that makes the cell produce proteins or things like that. It is very vital for directing the other organelles to know what to do and to produce proteins so that you can have hormones or your muscles can be repaired, things like that. And it's not just free floating, it has this thing called a nuclear envelope, and it has little pores that the chromatin and some ribosomes can flow out of so that they're not just all stuck in the nucleus, because that wouldn't be very helpful. Next, we have ribosomes, which are just protein factories, basically. They are responsible for manufacturing the proteins and copying your genetic code when it is time for the cell to split. There are either free ribosomes that are just floating around the cytoplasm with the lysosome and the Golgi and the mitochondria, or there are bound organelles attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. These organelles serve a variety of functions, and there are two parts to the ribosomes, two different subunits, and they each perform a different part of the synthesis of a protein. Speaking of the endoplasmic reticulum, there are two different types. There's the smooth and the rough part. The smooth ER is responsible for making lipids, proteins, steroids, things like that. It also helps with other enzymes to process drugs, alcohol, and other potentially harmful substances. So it helps to filter out and destroy dangerous chemicals in your body. The rough ER is rough because it has ribosomes attached to it. This is what the attached ribosomes are on. And it is the rough ER has those ribosomes on them. They are destined to be secreted out of your body after it goes through the Golgi apparatus. Next, we have the Golgi apparatus, or the warehouse, or the Amazon site of the cell. Here, proteins are packaged, changed. They can have carbohydrates, they can have lipids added to them so that they can be excreted out of the body or out of the cell to be used in the body for whatever reason they need to be used for. It has a shipping side and a receiving side. The receiving side is where the ribosomes come off from the rough ER and get absorbed. Then whatever protein is in there gets changed around, folded, things like that, and then shipped out the other side to where they then fuse with the cell membrane and then are transported throughout your body. Up next is everyone's favorite organelle. It's the powerhouse of the cell. It's the mitochondria. This is where all the energy for the cell is produced, and that energy is called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. It takes chemical energy from the food that we eat or other organisms eat and transforms it into ATP, another type of chemical energy that can be used by the cell. It has its own DNA and its own ribosomes, and they divide and reproduce on their own before cell division happens. Next, we have chloroplast, which is in plant cells only. It takes the chemical energy from the sun, transforms it into chemical energy, ATP again, that the plant can use. That process is called photosynthesis. And it works in conjunction with the mitochondria because the mitochondria works during nighttime when there isn't any sunlight, and the chloroplast works during the daytime when there is available sunlight. And that wraps up the organelles of various cells. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something.